Hello and welcome to Kinboshi Radio, where, Nick, history has happened.
History has happened, and I could not have been more wrong in predicting what was going to happen this time.
Oh, same. It was a bloodbath, and we're going to talk about it up and down the Bonds cake, because even our lower division commentary, we are, very vulnerable. We are humans. Do not judge us too harshly.
We're right a lot of the time, but this was all of the things were wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's almost like we should be proud of our consistency at how bad it was. But let's get into it, because here's the deal. Takerufuji of the prized Isegahama stable is the first debutant to win his opening basho, to get a yusho in 110 years since Ryogoku in 1914.
And I honestly, especially with his second week, could not have been more impressed. His first week, of course, a lot of lower level guys were like, your first 8 days, the hardest he fought was like Ryuden. But then they switched him to Abi, Onosato, Kanawaka, Kochinawaka, and he beat almost everybody. I know. Only Hoshoryu and Asunayama could stop him.
Right. And even then, like, it was so consistent. And Nick, I'm babbling. I don't even know what to say. This was impressive.
Yeah, this was amazing. And I think he did have the advantage of essentially like nobody knew how to counter him.
Right.
But even later in the tournament, he's still taking down people who should have been experienced enough to be able to kind of go into that unknown and do well. And he beat basically everybody.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up. One of our commenters brought that up, and there's another thing. The idea of, like, the surprise factor matters. Like, a lot of times these guys, because we discussed in our last episode this recent trend of guys coming up in their first tournament and performing extremely well, a lot of that is the surprise factor. Your opponents don't have sort of the reps against you, and maybe that does something. So that's a very important thing. And then, again, like, if we want to talk about how he did it, there was another commenter on our previous video. So, like, he did this all with what I am going to call lats and laterals. Like, his upper body, we talked about it in the preview show. It's comical. It is comical how just, like, stacked his neck is. And we saw a lot of that where he's, like, torquing people down. But he's got the skinny little chicken legs. Tiny, tiny little baby legs. But similar to Abi, how Abi has that lateral movement and is darting around the dohyo, it felt like the same thing was happening with Takerufuji there.
Yes, and he was just he's so quick on that little lower body that it really, like, it works surprisingly well to his favor.
Yeah, and so, like, what do you think, why do you think he, though, was there anything special, or, so many of these debutantes have been knocking at the door, and he actually did it. And I even want to bring up another thing. So, like, before he got that Yusho record, the 110-year record, which admittedly is the more impressive one, before that, he had tied the great Taiho, the Yokozuna, his record of 11 straight victories in a debut. So that's Oho's grandfather, right? The reason why we're always kind of a little frustrated with Oho's performances is because of how great his grandfather was. But I believe I read that Taiho, his 11 straight victories included 2 Fusenshos. So if that's the case, then, like, this was way more impressive, right? Like, what is special about Takerufuji, or is it just that sheer physicality that shocked people?
I think the physicality definitely shocked people. I do think this is almost like a perfect storm for him, because when you look at the Ozeki Plus, Terunofuji was out and injured. Kirishima had his issues going on. Takakeisho could barely get to 8. So I do think the 3 of the top 5, the 3 of them being basically out or wildly underperforming definitely came to his advantage.
Yeah. And then let's use this as an opportunity to talk about those other contenders too, because so, like, perfect storm, sure, like, we think he's good, and I do want to talk about, at the end of this episode, I want to touch base on how far can he go, but so that run, that 11 straight win run, gets stopped by Hoshoryu. And Hoshoryu was, I think, the best performer of the top contenders, of the top of the Sanyaku. What did you think about that loss to Hoshoryu? And what do you think that said about either fighter?
So I think this is kind of like, we've talked about it a little bit, and like we've seen it in the comments, where Hoshoryu has been tweaking his style a little bit, where he's been doing less throws, more technical.
Yes.
But I like that for this, he's still clearly he can still do it, and he can still the size difference and likely the strength difference from the size, and he still overcame him, which is just showing why Hoshoryu is where he's at. As much as we maybe sometimes talk down on him a little bit because of his record, but there's a reason he's where he's at.
Right, but then again, like when Hoshoryu was the one to beat Takerufuji. And so we were looking at this thing where you were talking about like Takerufuji had this 2-win lead going into the end and stuff like that. So Hoshoryu needed some magic to catch up. But Kotonowaka and Hoshoryu were both contenders. And then I was just like glancing through the scores and I was like, oh no, Hoshoryu and Kotonowaka haven't fought each other yet. And Kotonowaka has beaten Hoshoryu like 4 straight times in a row or something like that now. So I just had this bad feeling. And unfortunately, it proved to be true. Like, Hoshoryu was not able to keep up in that race because Kotonowaka beat him. So, like, I mean, is there anything else to say about Hoshoryu? Like, we both love the guy, and we think his potential's enormous. I don't quite understand why it continuously, like, doesn't happen. And here he got stopped by Kotonowaka. Like, what do you think about that?
So generally, I think in this position, Kotonowaka he's on a real upswing, clearly. So it's a really tough fight. But I mean, Hoshoryu's got, I don't know. It's hard because it's like I feel like Hoshoryu always, it kind of happens, just falls apart for him right at the end every time. And it's not bad to get 11-4, but it's like he's never consistently somebody I think who would get 12-13 yet.
Yeah. And is that just about the competition, or is there something about Hoshoryu?
You know, honestly, I don't have an answer for that one because I kind of give it almost the excuse of right now, like we know that he's switching up his style, which I think is very smart.
That's
so he's
true.
doing less throws, less likely to be injured, and you have to. I mean, your record's gonna take somewhat of a hit from that while you're getting things felt out.
Sure.
But also at the same time, I feel like it's always been this way with him.
Right. And again, like at the end of the day with Hoshoryu, like it's not a problem to lose to Kotonowaka. But as an Ozeki, it is a problem to lose to Midori Fuji, Tobizaru, and Ura. Like I think that's the bigger issue that frustrates me here.
Yeah, and I think if he had lost to one of them, they're all tricky, very crazy technical fighters.
All three of those guys fight relatively similar styles. So interesting that this might be a weak spot for him. Yeah.
But to lose to all of them, that is always tough. Like he should have at least beat 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah. And then, by the way, like listeners, I'd be very curious your opinions too, because we know Hoshoryu is incredibly divisive. Like, and at the end of the day, like he's still so young. So none of this is definitive, but I'm just interested in having this conversation right now where he appears to be at this inflection point in his career. But again, let us not forget that Hoshoryu, the guy who ended his tournament here, Kotonowaka, Hoshoryu is 2 years younger than Kotonowaka. And so, like, while Kotonowaka, to me, feels like the young guy because Hoshoryu has been around longer in these top division and these higher rankings and things like that, he's the young guy here. He's the one still who has more potential. And so let's pivot then. Like, Kotonowaka, at some point, it does have to be put up or shut up, right? Like, he's got to get this done.
Yes, and so he kind of broke like the bad streak of the recent Ozeki coming in and just doing poorly because of injuries, of course. But he broke it with 10-5. Got to raise his dad's name to Ozeki. It's great, but he still lost some. Like he also lost to Ura. Asfaniyama fine, Takerufuji fine, but then like Kirishimu's done terrible this time.
He lost to the 2 wounded Ozekis in the final 3 days. What was that?
That was a real surprise for me, and that's where I thought, looking at their records and looking at their performances, that I was like, oh, I thought he was going to be the contender for the very end.
Me too.
And it just fell apart.
Yep. And again, so I don't know, like Sumo's in this weird place. Like, so okay, well here let's move here for a second. I'm gonna come back to this other question, but I need to be patient. So Kotonowaka again, like you said, now over his last 3, he has 34 wins, and he's got that Inu show and the runner-up. Like, by no means am I saying Kotonowaka does not deserve to be an Ozeki. The guy is an absolute house, and his form right now is just stellar. But then we go down and a couple other guys. So the two guys we talked about him losing to, Kirishima had a miserable basho, and you and I were picking him to win the thing. 5-10. One of those wins was a Fusensho over Takakeisho, who pulled out, and we're going to talk about him in a second. And then shockingly a win against Kotonowaka on the final day out of nowhere. But we did talk about some of the drama of like, he I guess is the only one of his stablemates who is moving to Kakuryu's stable, the former Kakuryu I should say. When it closes, a lot of his like stablemates are just like retiring or choosing other. I think a bunch of them chose to go to Arashio Bayo with the Waka brothers. I don't know. So like there's something there. So we talked about that drama, but also at the end it came out that apparently he was injured. At any rate, he's skipping the off-month tour, but I'm never entirely sure. But like all sumo wrestlers are injured all the time. I'm not sure though if that's coming out after the fact, you know? So like that was abysmal. And then Takakeisho actually started looking good, relatively, considering his recent form. But like, I guess what I'm trying to say is he had 7 wins by day 9, and then he had to fight 4 days until he finally got that last win, shockingly against Kotonowaka. And then, as we suspected, immediately pulled out because he's not healthy. So with those two guys, like, well, I'll get your thoughts. What do you think about Kirishima? What do you think about Takakeisho's performances?
So I think even without an injury, it makes sense to me, everything that's come out with Kirishima. Like his whole life is changing. Everybody he's been living with since he started sumo, his coach, his trainer, everything is being like completely changed on him. And so that totally makes sense. He's going to a new environment. I think the coach will be, or Kakuryu will be good for him, but it's still a massive switch. And personally, Takakeisho, I think we've mentioned it before. I just, every time that he comes out, I'm like, oh, please retire before you are paralyzed.
I know. That's what I really want to talk about here. Yeah, because Kirishima, we think he'll bounce back. He'll readjust to these new circumstances. And if he is indeed hurt, then he will get healthy. But Takakeisho, like I want to have in the coming weeks, I have a couple friends down here who professionally work with people who have spinal injuries. And I was just casually watching some sumo and talking with them, and one of them had mentioned with Takakeisho, she's like, oh yeah, the surgery he needs, we do that like once a week or whatever, like we do it really frequent, but you have to like not move for 2 months, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh gosh, this guy's done, just stop. I don't know, man.
I would love to see him get the surgery, like retire, get the surgery, and then still recover so he has a life afterwards.
I know.
Because he's a little older for sumo, but he's still, what, 34?
Are you talking about Takakeisho?
Yes.
Bro, he's not even 28 yet.
Oh, no, 1996. He's way younger than I thought.
I know.
Please, I don't want to see him crippled this young.
Oh, it's all, I know. And I just like... he had 2 chances at Yokozuna and they didn't happen, and now I don't see a happier ending is the thing. And I don't know. You know, I'm bummed about it. Like, I like the guy. I don't know.
Yeah, he's great. He held the sport down basically solo as the sole good Ozeki for like 2 years. There's nothing wrong with him retiring, I think, at this point.
Yeah, he's so young, and I as in like he doesn't want to retire because he's so young. What we don't realize, I think, is so with top division wrestlers, they often get into their 30s, but the average retiring age in sumo is often much lower. Now, some of that is for competitivity reasons, like dudes who are relatively young but are capping out at Sandanme or like forget it and stuff like that. But the lifestyle that sumo demands is not healthy mentally or physically. So 28 actually is, like you were saying before, pretty old in sumo. So both Takakeisho and Kirishima, miserable tournaments, but Kotonowaka found a way to lose to both of them. So I do want to jump back in with this because also Isegahama gets the win, but not the way we thought. Takerufuji gets it, not Terunofuji. And Teru looked abysmal and pulled out, and now there's talks that Teru is making May his final tournament. There was a report that his stablemate, he needs hip surgery, and his Oyakata wanted him to get it, and he refused because he said, no, if I get the hip surgery, that's another 3-month recovery, and May's my last tournament. So, like, I don't know, that's kind of like a behind closed doors thing, but it's already, like, leaking out. So, Teru is not at his best. Maybe he comes back in May and gets the other Yusho, but now we talk about this uncertainty in Ozeki's where even the two that had good performances, Kotonowaka lost 2 shockers to 2 struggling Ozeki, Hoshoryu lost to that same Kotonowaka, and also has this weird struggle with the small nimble guys. How far can Takerufuji go in an environment like this? You said, and I totally think this is a smart point, but you said Takerufuji's Yusho is partly dependent upon the environment, the greater sumo ecosystem right now kind of struggling. So someone needs to take advantage of this. Is it Takerufuji? How far can this guy go? Are we looking at the historic, the Ryogoku, or are we looking at Taiho? Because the two guys whose records he was hanging on with here, Ryogoku did not have the stunning career. Taiho had an absolutely eye-wateringly impressive career. What are we looking at, Nick?
I think the upper echelon, so essentially the Sanyaku and those first couple as well, they'll catch on, I think, for the most part. But honestly, at this point, I don't see anybody consistently being, and I've clearly been wrong before, but from what we saw and even who he beat at the end, I would say, I don't know if, even after his first tournament, I don't know if anybody below Maegashira like 2 could actually like really figure him out in time to beat him.
Interesting. And do we think like Hoshoryu? So we've talked about this where like we're watching Hoshoryu strengthen other techniques, maybe more of his like vertical pusher thruster, just going straight at it. Like we talked about a previous viewer mentioning that you're less likely to get injured going north-south than doing the throws like he was doing before, those torquing body movements. Do we think that he can eventually develop a well-rounded enough career to have some staying power up there? Or are you thinking that this is going to be in some ways like the Mitakeumi run of recent memory, not his previous run where he was also very good, but where just age, frankly, is what caught up to Mitakeumi? But are you thinking he's about to have like a golden age of 3 Bashos and then recede to mid-Maegashira obscurity?
I think especially considering the stable he's in, I have higher hopes for it.
Same, right here, and he has impressive pedigree at previous levels.
Yeah, I think with the training he has access to, like you said, with the pedigree, with everything together, I do think he could be consistently better.
Yeah, and
kind of like a most recent Kotonowaka run.
Yeah. And
like I could see him just steadily rising up.
Totally. And we're going to talk about this more in a future episode or whatever, because the Miyagino drama does not stop. But like when you talk about having skilled training partners and things like that, Isegahama, Takerufuji's stable, is about to absorb Miyagino and all the stars in that stable. So that if he's the kind of guy who's motivated by competition, he's going to get a lot of it when he already has currently Terunofuji, but we know that's coming to an end, but already has a Tommy Fuji, another one of these young, impressive guys. Oh, and by the way, just tossing this out there, because I forgot to mention it earlier, but yet another Takerufuji record, fastest progression to the top division, tied with only 9 tournaments it took him to get here, tied with Jokoryu from 2011. And I know that Hakuoho, yada, but those it's for guys who climbed the full ladder. Hakuoho got the privilege of starting in Makuuchi, etc., etc. You know what I mean?
Okay, gotcha. So it was just because he had to start lower.
Exactly. He had to go all the way up and stuff like that. And then just another thing thrown out there, though, like these comparisons, what scares me, the former Jokoryu, like we talked about, that's another guy so he rushed up to the top and was very impressive. Never even won a Makuuchi Yusho, got 1 gold star in his career. Just saying, like, I don't know. I'm trying to put the brakes on, but I really do think that this guy has an impressive pedigree from his pre-professional sumo career, and I think that it really matters that he's going to have these skilled training partners, and he's yet another one of these guys like a Tommy Fuji that Terunofuji has taken under their wing. And while we have been robbed of what would have been a stellar Yokozuna career with Terunofuji simply by these injuries, like he's a guy who, in a different universe, Terunofuji retires with 45 Yusho, you know?
No, exactly. And I don't know. This is mostly gut instinct at this point, but I get a different vibe from Takerufuji than I do from like a Nishiki Fuji or a Kimbo Zan, where it's like they shot right up and then right back down.
Right.
I just get a different feeling for him.
I hope so. Yeah, because that's what we're afraid of. And like we're gonna talk about this. Like Gonoyama now finally had his bounce back tournament, looked really good, 10-5. But yeah, he's another one of these guys. He's Goeido's protege, and we were both really impressed with him, and we still are. We still like him. But now he's kind of one of those guys. I still think Ozeki is the peak. I think he can get there, but now I'm like, ooh, maybe it's Sekiwake. I don't know, that kind of stuff. So just,
I mean, when you're competing against now Takerufuji and Onosato, those two are, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be tough to compete against them.
Totally. And I want to talk, so before we go, like you mentioned Onosato, and again, he was the real challenger in this and very impressive. Did finally get some impressive performances against top rankers. We talked about how last time he didn't get many chances in his debut tournament, but really struggled in them. In this one, he beat Daisho, he beat Abi, he beat Takakeisho, I know, wounded, but he beat Wakamoto Haru. And so he had an incredibly impressive run there to get to his 11-4 and still finish runner-up. But Takerufuji and Onosato just winning all the prizes, the Yusho, the Ginosho, the like it was very impressive, those two guys. So which of these two then do you think is more likely to be our next Ozeki? Or our next Yokozuna? Who cares about Ozeki? They're both whatever. Onosato or yeah.
Ozeki's not exciting enough.
No, not for these boys.
Ooh, that's tough. I mean, I'm going to say Onosato now just because we've seen him consistently do two. Now we have to see Takerufuji if he can do a second one. But really, for me, it's kind of up in the air. But like you said, those two came in, and it's not like, what was it, 2022, when essentially there was no real top fighters and it was Maegashira winning and cleaning up all over the place. Like, these two did well, got all these prizes with still a really solid upper crowd.
Yeah. And it should have even been better. Like, again, we talked about the weird Kirishima performance and stuff like that. But yeah, I also think Onosato is more likely to make Ozeki than Takerufuji. At some point, as a tiny man myself, I don't like it, but size matters and you can't teach it, you know? And Onosato's body, like, he has the wingspan, he has the weight already, he has everything. Like, it's so impressive to me. He and Kotonowaka both do the same thing where it's not even a counter charge. Like, they go into the Tachi, but they go into it stabilizing and absorb the attack of everyone. And they absorb furious attacks of the likes of Hokuto Fuji, of like the Takayasu shoulder blast. They just absorb it and they just go on. And it's incredibly impressive to me. And I just have less fear about Onosato's style than I do Takerufuji's, especially when we look at things like that ankle injury. Like, he was limping in the final day too. Like, this is one of the rare occasions where I agree with his coach and his teammates who were like, no, you fight. You know what I mean? Because normally you and I are very pro protect your body because this sport won't protect it for you. But I did agree with him coming back to win that, but I'm always terrified. Now, we just saw Hoshoryu like half a year ago come back really impressively from a similar injury, so he's probably fine, but I don't know. I just think Onosato's the more solid pick.
No, I agree. Like you said, like, if the size of the person didn't matter, Tobizaru and Midori Fuji would be way higher, way more consistently than they are.
Yep.
Versus like Terunofuji, you hit him, he's not gonna move.
Yeah.
Even with his legs not working, he doesn't move back.
Yeah, it's true. Right. His leg strength is obviously like a shadow of its former self, but the man is still giant. There's nothing you can do about that. Even Ichinojo back in the day, he says, he's only recently gone, but that same kind of idea. Listeners, I'm very curious what you all think. Like, Onosato or Takerufuji, who is more likely to make you Yokozuna? And you have to pick one. You can't avoid picking one or whatever, because the answer might be neither, that you don't think either of them are going to make it, but just for the sake of this argument, I'm very curious to see what the consensus is on that. Other stories just to touch on real quick that we haven't kind of gotten to yet. I mean, we talked on Goneyama, and that's fine. Wakamoto Haru had an impressive return, but I want to pivot and talk more about Asanoyama, because if we're talking about guys going in, like, not too long ago, Asanoyama was the great hope for Yokozuna, and even on his comeback run, I was skeptical simply because of age and losing time practicing at a top level and things like that. But now, from Maegashira 1, he goes 9-6. Nishikigi is plummeting out of the Sanyaku, and also Daisho was not able to clinch the 7 and 8 to maintain his Komusubi slot, so, like, Asanoyama is definitely going up, probably Komusubi, because it'll be Abi and Wakamoto Haru at Sekiwake, probably. But how do you feel about Asanoyama's performance? He's finally back up there, but yet again, it was just a 9-6. Like, we're not seeing the dominance that was predicted.
No, and that's interesting. I'm really glad that you brought this up because, Abi's 9-6. He's a Komusubi, consistently a Komusubi little fighter. Like, he's my favorite of all time, but it's like, I don't know that he's consistently a Sekiwake, so it's cool to see him go back up there. But it could have been Asanoyama's, and I would have expected it, considering his, his former rank, his former everything, really, that he could have stolen that from him.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Especially, again, like you say, 2 9-6s, like, if Asanoyama just goes 10-5, I think that the JSA might leapfrog it. Uncertain, but like it's a possibility, because they would be like, well, he had a better record, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely, and should have been. I mean, it's super exciting that he's back in the Sanyaku, but at Komusubi.
Yeah, and so basically, I'm just Asanoyama, love Asanoyama, super excited to see the end of his career here because love that guy's Tachi-ai. His quick twitch reflexes, nobody's faster in a Tachi-ai than him. It's insane. I love it. He always gets the grip he wants. It's so exciting. But I think it's going to be another one of these situations. Takayasu went 11-4. I love Big Papa. Big Papa is my favorite. But, we just keep seeing this pattern with Big Papa. Like, he's Maegashira 1, he gets hurt, he pulls out and drops to mid Maegashiras. From mid Maegashiras, he gets double-digit wins. He rises to Maegashira 1. From Maegashira 1, he gets hurt, he drops the rinse and repeat. Another one, Mitakeumi. Maegashira 10, he went 9-6. Shodai 8-7. Like, I just don't. At some point, it doesn't totally happen again. It just doesn't happen again.
No, those two specifically are a bummer to see them be like, oh, 9-6, 8-7. You're like, not bad, but Maegashira 10 for those two?
Yeah.
They should have gone like 13 wins.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I just don't know. And by the way, speaking of guys who just like disappoint, like, I don't know what's wrong with Endo. He's gone now. He's going down to Juryo. He went 5-10 from Maegashira 16. I don't know. Not to like put a guy on blast, but I'm really shocked. It's that same point, like we're continue to be shocked that Shodai and Mitakeumi are not really putting it together. But at some point, like, age comes earlier in sumo than it does in regular life, and we might just be seeing age on these guys.
Yeah, Endo's pretty old. He's 33 now. He was born 1990.
I'm older than him? Oh, no.
Me too.
Oh, man. Okay, but he'll be down in Juryo, but there's some interesting things. Takerufuji might be coming back up. Toki Hayate might come up. These 8 and 7s at Juryo 1. Juryo was weird because Mitoryu ends up dominating Juryo this time at 12-3. But again, more incorrect predictions from us. Wakataka Kage and Hakuoho both struggled mightily. From J10, Wakataka Kage did go 9-6, but on the last 6 days of the tournament, 1-5. Absolute meltdown. And Hakuoho just, I don't know, he just had what I would call a boring performance. Now, we talked about Kirishima and drama at home. Like, one, I think Hakuoho's not completely healthy. And two, with as young as he is and how closely attached to Hakuho he was, he's holding Hakuho's Shikona. You know what I mean? Like, he's not Hakuho, but he's Hakuoho because of like, I think mentally he's kind of wrecked right now. And I think there were some people in the JSA who kind of thought that if they were too harsh on Hakuoho was just going to retire and quit the sport.
Yeah, so it did kind of make me laugh a little. Not with Hakuoho. The whole thing going on there is terrible. But with Wakataka Kage, I'm like, God, that just feels like exactly before you got injured. Like it just feels exactly the same. It's like you're home.
Except in reverse. Remember when Wakataka Kage went on that stretch where he went 0-3 for like 5 straight bashos, but still Kachikoshi'd?
Yes, yeah, he'd lose most of the first week. Now, granted, he was fighting at Sekewake there, not Jurio 10.
Yeah. Oh man. It's tough. And then interestingly, another guy who I just want to add because it's similar. So he also finished 9-6, just like Wakataka Kage, and he's also a tiny muscle man, so I love him. Asakoryu, the former Ishizaki, but like, yeah, another one of these guys who Asakoryu actually was leading the tournament 7-0 through the first week, and then went to 8-0, got his Kachikoshi, but on a Fusensho. But then for the final 7 days, the last week of the tournament, 1-6. Terrible. and then both of those guys ended up finishing 9-6, and now I think neither of them are going to get promoted when it looked like they were both going to go up. But I wanted to bring that up because Wakataka Kage is not small, and we have seen him do it at the top level, but now with this injury, is there a fear that now he might sink to the level of someone like Asakoryu, who will eventually make it into the top division, but I don't know that he is going to go anywhere, but like, Is this second half any sign of the injuries, or is this just something that happened this tournament?
I hope it's something that happened. Like, he's too good to be struggling at this low. Yeah. I still personally believe he is not getting back up to Sekewake again. I think the playing field has changed too much. I think Wakamoto Haru is better between the two brothers, personally.
Yeah. I mean, I think so too. Like it's shocking, but I do think he is.
Yeah, which, totally flipped our expectations from before he was injured. Yeah. But I don't know. I expect him to not really struggle until he gets up to like the mid to higher Magashiras. That was the surprise for me, and that's why I'm hoping this was just like a weird fluke.
Yeah. And you never know. Yeah, exactly. And matchups matter and stuff like that. Like maybe he is better against guys he has more experience with in the top division and stuff like that. But long story short, shockingly, Mitoryu is rising from Juryo like a rocket, and the two guys we thought were gonna rocket through are probably fighting another Juryo Basho, and then down in Makuuchi, joining them in Juryo, like some interesting stuff down here. Like Chiyomaru's gonna come back up, I think, which is cool. And Onokatsu is one that we mentioned, and he did go 5-2, so he's an exciting guy that's probably coming up here. He's in Onomatsu Beya, which means that he's teammates with Onosho. I don't know that he fights in Onosho style. He's more interesting, but another like very physical fighter, another Mongolian. But what's more interesting to me is who Onokatsu lost to on the final day in Makuuchi, who ended up winning the tournament, Kaze Keno. So Kaze Keno he was 7-0 in this tournament, but he's Oshiogawa Beya. Again, another Beya that we're going to talk about with some drama in the future or whatever. But like he's kind of their prized possession and was on pace to be another one of these sort of debutante rocket types. And then like I don't actually know because I wasn't following the lower divisions closely when this happened, or I just wasn't following him. I don't know, but like he had a couple terrible, like 2023 did not end well, a 3-4 and a 2-5, so I assume he got hurt. But I'm really curious to see what this guy can do up here. He's big and he's physical. Another one of these guys who, I don't know, people had high expectations for. But yeah, I don't know. You got any Makuuchi thoughts, Nick?
Honestly, I think you pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, when I don't let you talk for 5 minutes, somehow I cover it all. Is that it? Yeah. However, skipping ahead to the most important of all the divisions, of course, Sandanmei, where I have tragic news, Nick. Our mighty savior hath fallen. Pour one out.
He took a whole loss.
It's so bad. It's fine. But our boy Aonishiki, the Ukrainian Phoenix, 6-1. He did lose on the final day, and there's no shame in it. And you were even... Here's why I'm bringing this up, kind of skipping ahead to this. So he lost to Nagamura, who is really good. He was at Sandanme 3, and he's another young guy. He's in Kisei stable, so a lot of good fighters there. And he's another one of these guys who, like, I mean, I think he's only been fighting professionally for about a year, too. So he's another young, exciting prospect. But Aonishiki, you had said, as we were previewing this, that there was a part of you, I'm not going to totally put words in your mouth, but there was a part of you that kind of didn't want him to do the 21-0, wanted him to, like, was that coming from the perspective of humility or like motivation? Because it looks like he's going to go up into Makuuchi now, but he did not get the 3 straight U shows, the 21-0 to open his career. What were you thinking? Are you happy with the 6-1? What do you think?
I'm always happy with, 6-1 is still very good, but I almost, like, in my head, I needed him to take a loss to see how he bounces back from it. Because, I mean, if you go perfect forever, you take that loss and also you can just break because you don't know how to recover from it.
No, this is...
And it's convenient for him that it happened at the end.
Yeah.
So he's got time to reflect on that. But that was, for me, that was probably the biggest, like, the faster you go, it's really easy to trip up and not recover.
No, that's so interesting. I love that. Yeah, I wasn't thinking about it that way at all. And hearing you say that actually helps me. It's not about that he doesn't have the right motivation. It's about getting the pressure off his back.
Yes, and getting the experience of a loss, and now being like, oh, okay, this will happen. I mean, you're not perfect. You don't want to get cocky, and this will happen.
Yeah. Super interesting. I like that, and I still got super high hopes for this guy. The moment of truth for me will be when he gets to Juryo. I truly do not know if he can hang at that level. Similar to a guy like his fellow Ukrainian Shishi, made it to Juryo and is kind of now treading water. Similar to a guy, like I said, the former Ishizaki, the current Asakoryu, where, like, when I was comparing him to Waka Takakage, and I'm like, the Waka is supposed to be better than this. If he's only doing, like, what Asakoryu does, that's a problem. So I'm super curious in that same vein what he can do, but I'm still holding out hope that he will go to the top and perhaps eventually learn to be a body-to-body bear like Tochinoshin and lift guys out strong style. I will touch on really quickly Jonidan and Jonokuchi, but not as much to say here because Jonidan was won 7-0 by Tochimaru, who is like a big-time veteran. Like he was hurt for 3 Basho. That's the only reason why he was all the way down here. So very expected for him to win. And then same thing happened in Jonokuchi. It was won by Chiyo Oga of Kokonoi stable. And he also had just sat out 4 Basho. So, like, these are guys who were severely underranked. So it's not that those tournaments weren't exciting this time. It's that, sometimes you get an overqualified individual, and that's just that. Other than that, though, I mean, Nick, final thoughts? Clearly, it's going to be hard to top this Basho, right?
Yeah. I mean, I loved all the ways that we were wrong for the most part. Like, all the people who shot up past our expectations. Like you said, 113-year-old record being just shattered. Like, this was great.
2 records tied and a record broken. Well, yeah, exactly. Like, not broken. A time record broken, as in no one done it for a while. But, like, this is incredibly impressive. Honestly, I hope the commenters are shredding us right now and saying that Takerufuji is the real deal and we're being too cautious. Like, I'm just super curious to see what happens from this guy now. It matters that he's in Isegahama, like you said. It's just incredibly exciting things to come. We're still in this chaos zone of sumo, but whenever it settles, there's so many options right now that, like, there are some incredibly bright spots in sumo's future. So with that said, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you again soon.